Heidegger says publicness as such is characterized by its ambiguity, by its curiosity, by its idle chatter. And frankly, when you read those passages, I mean, I read them at the start of the coronavirus pandemic when it wasn't clear what was going on. And it's as though he's writing, again, exactly about what's going on, because people are saying one thing and it seems like something else. You don't know where the truth lies. He says that's just built into the structure of public speech, because it is not using its language to disclose the truth about anything. It's just speaking out of curiosity about everything without distinction. But sort of like in Plato's cave allegory, we can turn our soul around from the shadows to the process of exiting the cave through education. In Heidegger, it's in principle possible for us to turn ourselves around, so to speak, and make our language deliberate and have it be genuinely being disclosive, have it genuinely reveal the truth about ourselves and about the world. So it can be that, but as a rule, it isn't. And he tries to snap us back and show us how to have, once again, a proper appreciation for what language is. It is not just a tool for him. It's what sort of puts us in touch with the ground of our existence. So I'm not saying, look, all of this is super, how would you put it? It's like difficult on one hand. It's something that if Heidegger is right, we're not used to doing, because we usually are in the mode of doing the opposite. That's built into his analysis. As a rule, everybody is not turned in toward the structures of their existence. They're turned outward toward the things that they're doing, the things that they're taking care of, the things that they have dealings with. But the problem is that we then derive our self-interpretation in terms of the world that we take care of, rather than in terms of our proper constitution. When we take note of our proper constitution, life gets more interesting, I would say.
And where have you settled on this subject of universal Dasein? Like, is it, if you drill all the way down to the ground floor on each individual all around the world, do you get to the same place, or is it a different place? This is such a crucial thing, right?
Yeah, this is a crucial thing. I would say, first of all, I don't know. Okay. Second of all, though, when Dugin does this experiment, he elaborates this thesis on the basis of the existential analysis of the Russian language. There's a lot there that is very persuasive and thought-provoking. Why should it be the case that these words having to do with being are so different and so obviously not parallel to the German ones? So I think it's a path well worth developing further, understanding further. That's why I wrote about Dugin's Heidegger in the book, and why I continue to think about what he's brought to light. However, I should say that there's another way we can approach these questions, Strauss's way, which I also find has a lot going for it. And Strauss, because he somehow doesn't go all the way into pure philosophy, but he combines wisdom and moderation, or philosophy with a concern for the issues of political life, he, to my view, makes a persuasive case that separately of how we think about being and all that, there's a universal commonality among human beings when it comes to the questions of political life. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to live the right way of life. There's just a dispute over what the right way of life is. But so Strauss says that questions that people raise across time and across place are questions that belong to man as such, not to, German, French, Anglo-Eastern, or whatever. They are the fundamental questions of concern for the human being as such. So Strauss has a sort of universality there when it comes to the level of the fundamental questions, but he combines it by saying that there's never going to be an answer to that question that everybody can accept. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. One reason is that he says most people are not philosophical. Most people do not get the truth. They get the opinion version of the truth, or the opinion version of something. And that every opinion, by its nature, gives rise to a counter opinion. So in order for the universality of truth to imply political universality, it would have to be in principle possible for everybody in political life to comprehend the universal truth. But if politics is at a lower level than philosophy, if it's the realm of opinion rather than truth, and if opinion gives rise to a counter opinion, then even the universality of the fundamental issues, the universality of the essence of man, is still going to imply a closed society or a multipolar world. Many political communities, many political organizations, each of them built on their partial grasp or on their partial version, or in short, on their opinion. There are going to be many caves, even if there's one sun. So you see, that's, to my mind, that is, without having to drive us into questions of the meaning of human existence, also a pretty plausible and helpful way, I think, of looking at the relationship between the universal and the particular.
Many caves, one sun. That's a good way of putting it right there. That resonated with me. Without going off on a tangent too far, you said something I wanted to ask you about. You said everybody wants to be happy. Is that really true? Does everybody want to be happy? Some people want to be of service. Some people want to give sacrifice. Some people think that their purpose is work. I don't know. Is it universally accepted in philosophy that everybody wants to be happy?
I think the idea here is that people think that they will find satisfaction in work. People think that they will find satisfaction in service. So there's some relationship here between what people think will satisfy them, right? I think that being of service to others will fulfill me or make me feel, satisfy my self-conception. I called that happiness. Now, we can make, in fact, the distinction between satisfaction, well, let me put it this way. I think it's fair to say, at least among the people that I've read, they acknowledge that, yeah, everybody's trying to satisfy their self-understanding. Everybody wants satisfaction. And there's a dispute over whether happiness is what we should call that. Now, I actually want to say something more about that. Alexander Koyev, who wrote this introduction to the reading of Hegel and who disputed with Strauss in the book on Tyranny, Hegel said that everybody desires recognition. Everybody wants to be recognized as an individual of infinite worth and dignity. And that all human history, all work, all struggle, all wars, and all revolutions are in the service of and for the sake of satisfying that desire for recognition. Until you reach the point where, in principle, there is universal mutual recognition of one another's individual dignity. But he said that becomes a question and a problem. How did we get from the beginning of human history to the stage when everybody is satisfied, finally, if, in principle, of having their individual dignity recognized? Now, Koyev's model helps us, I think, understand a lot of identity politics type thinking in the contemporary world, because a lot of the marginalized figures and communities, they don't want to be marginalized. They don't want to be on the margins. They want their universal infinite human dignity and worth to be recognized. That's totally in line with what Koyev said is the decisive human desire. However, he thought that this decisive human desire could only truly be satisfied in a universal world state. So it requires, if you think that every human being more than everything seeks the recognition of their individual dignity, then he said it follows that you have to have a single universal political community. Strauss, when he disputed with Koyev, he said, first of all, that's a very big problem. A universal world state is a big problem, okay? Because it's going to exercise all kinds of control over people that is worse than any type of tyranny you've ever imagined in the past or could be, especially if it's a universal world state ruled by someone who's unwise, an unwise tyrant with no opposition, no checks and balances. Let's not go there. That's the political answer. But the philosophical answer was, he says, it's not true that all human beings seek universal recognition. There are some human beings like Socrates who are satisfied by just having a few good friends that they can philosophize with together. They don't need the whole world to want them. They don't need the whole world to love them. He said that's primarily a feature of the political human being. The political man, the political ruler, is the one who wants everybody to love him. He's the one who, if he could universalize his rule, could have everybody say that he's the man or something like that. But that's distinct from the philosopher's motivations. So whether we're satisfied by recognition, universal recognition, or whether we're satisfied by a different sort of happiness, for example, by just philosophizing with a few good friends, like Socrates does, is a big deal. A lot rests on that distinction. When I said that everybody wants to be happy, I meant everybody has something that they think will satisfy them. They have some opinion about what the good life is. And these are two fundamental alternatives. By the way, hugely relevant to us, because Koyev thought that American life was the end of history. He said when he visited America, he no longer had to speculate about what human life would look like at the end of history. It was America, where in principle, mutual recognition has been, not if guaranteed in practice, it's been acknowledged as that which we're striving to embody. There's no idea after that. It's all about individual worth, individual dignity. And when you play that out, as I say, you get globalist consequences, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I guess he didn't come to America yesterday and start taking a look around at what's happening here, because the end of the history seems to have ended, no?
Well, look, you have two things again here. You have the idea that everybody's individual dignity should be recognized, and then you have all the hustle and bustle associated with the instantiation of that idea or that principle. So here's the question really is, have we gotten beyond in the Western world the idea that the most important thing is the universal acknowledgement of human dignity, separately from all the hustle and bustle of this change of government, that change of government, this change of leadership, that one, these quasi-revolutionaries. And so I think that the tendency to call everybody a racist, a fascist, reactionary, and all of that, a tendency that you're familiar with and I assume most of your listeners are familiar with, it actually is a reflection of this idea that anything that denies the absolute essential, how would you put it, leveling or something like that, anything that introduces distinction or difference. Now, obviously, it's a self-refuting position, because when you say, if I say, us and them thinking is fascistic, and I am an anti-fascist, and therefore anybody who has us and them thinking is not us, it's them, and therefore I'm going to destroy them. That's obviously a self-refuting, self-perpetuating fascist anti-fascism. And you don't even have to think very deeply. You don't need Strauss or Heidegger or Koyev or any of these guys to see the absurdity of that. Okay, but still. So somehow the implicit, if you were to be charitable to those people, the implicit thing that they're trying to say is, we want to get rid of all kinds of supremacy. We want to get rid of all kind of authority. Yes, we might have to institute a counter authority or a counter supremacy in the meanwhile, but the ultimate goal will be to overcome these distinctions. So I think there's something that's still helpful about the contemporary situation, something helpful in reading Koyev and Hegel and these end of history theorists in understanding the contemporary situation if we separate, again, the hustle and bustle from the principles, the obviously self-refuting, idiotic, kindergarten level political analysis from the implied principles beneath the surface, which we have to do. Because by the way, what's really frightening, what's really embarrassing, I would say, and you talk to people from other parts of the world and you really get a clear sense of this, contemporary American political rhetoric in the halls of Congress, where a men, a women, and all of this kind of thing, it's just, to call it a kindergarten level thinking is really to insult kindergartners. This is just honestly doesn't even merit comment as to how lowbrow it is. But unfortunately, that's the state of contemporary political rhetoric to a certain extent. And I think the task of anybody who smells it for what it is to elevate the discourse on the basis of more thoughtful restatements of the key issues, and to chase the stupidity away.